Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you just can't let go of that person, that situation? What if everything you thought you were losing was actually setting you free? What if letting go wasn't about loss, but about liberation? So this episode is about letting go. It's about moving on in a way that is authentic and healing and self-empowering, because so many people struggle to let go, to move on from misaligned relationships, friendships, careers, experiences, beliefs, perceptions, and even identities. And it's something that I've personally dealt with in various ways throughout my life. And recently, I've experienced a deepening of my understanding of letting go because I've been reactivating my Kundalini. So my husband passed 8 years ago, and a couple months after he passed, while I was hiking in the Swiss Alps by myself, he came to me, and then I had a massive spiritual awakening. And then I had an involuntary Kundalini awakening, which really broke open the universe essentially, and it removed the veil between real and not real. And it opened all my psychic abilities. And so it went kind of dormant because I got real stuck in 3D. I got real stuck in the hustle and achieving, and then I got super burnt out. And so now that I have reinvested in my spiritual health and prioritized it, I'm reactivating my Kundalini. And what this journey has revealed to me in a very visceral way is that true transformation requires deep surrender. Holding on, whether it's to people, to old identities, to beliefs, to emotions, or to control itself, restricts the divine intelligence and orchestration of not only our energy, but what's orchestrated for us within the universe. And when we do deeply surrender, let go, we not only liberate, but we also integrate our whole selves and elevate our whole selves. Letting go is not a passive thing. I think a lot of people think that it is. It's actually an active choice to step into not only your higher alignment, but to productively and intentionally release what is out of alignment. So in this episode, I'm going to discuss why people struggle to let go, why people hold on. And then I'll also share guidance about how to productively and healthfully and intentionally let go so that you can be free of what is out of alignment with your highest health, with your highest happiness, with your highest self. Welcome to The Simple Source, your source for all things self-love, self-healing, personal growth, and spirituality. I'm your host, Linda Villines. I used to be chronically sick and unhappy. I spent years trying anything and everything to heal, but I never got better. It wasn't until my late husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that I finally stopped searching for the answers outside of myself and turned within. I taught myself how to truly love and heal myself, how to finally be authentically healthy and happy, mind, body, and soul. I have over 10 years of personal and professional self-healing and teaching experience. I'm a trauma-informed, certified holistic health and wellness coach, certified Ayurvedic counselor, and author. I healed myself of a lifetime of complex traumas and chronic conditions with joy and ease. Now I'm teaching you to do the same. So if you're ready to heal and love yourself more, mind, body, and soul, without all the struggle and stress, and with more joy and productivity, join me to liberate your highest, healthiest, and happiest self and learn how to thrive more simply. Let's get started with today's episode. So letting go has been a really big theme for me as of late. I have let go of a ton of shit. I have let go of limiting manifestation frameworks, which I went into in my last podcast episode. That's been a biggie. I have broken free from the control matrix, which is another biggie. I've let go basically of my perceptions that it wasn't as massive as an influence as it was. And so that was a huge liberation and release. I've let go of old identities. I have let go of so much, of so many emotions and so many wounded beliefs and narratives. I have let go. And in letting go, I have liberated more and more of my joy and my magic and my power and my clarity and my highest self. And I think that we hold on, we are conditioned to hold on for so many reasons. And I'll get into this more later, but letting go is really so essential for our evolution in so many ways. It's not just about releasing something, it's about releasing yourself to a greater version of who you're meant to be. Because holding on to what no longer serves you, that's actually not an act of healing or love or self love or loyalty. It's not an act of strength. It's actually an act of self-abandonment, because the more that you resist, the more that you hold on, the more that you think that you are in control by gripping onto the thing that you feel makes you whole or happy, or you fill in the blank, the more that you're actually resisting your own expansion. Because just think about it. What is truly yours will never require force or grasping or desperation or attachment. Anything that you have to hold on to for dear life is already misaligned with your highest self, because your highest self is not desperate, is not compulsive, is not contingent on external validation, doesn't need to be in control, feels completely whole and sovereign within themselves. So that means that letting go is an initiation into your true, authentic sovereignty, into embodying genuine self-trust and liberating yourself and knowing your true power. Because the truth about holding on is most people believe unconsciously that holding on keeps them safe, but in reality, it just keeps you stuck. Every time you refuse to let go, you're actually just anchoring yourself into an outdated version of reality. You just keep collapsing your reality into a version that is out of alignment with your highest self and highest path. So in essence, you are rejecting, this is why this is self-abandonment, you are rejecting your highest path. You are rejecting the natural flow of your life and highest timeline in favor of an illusion of control, of needing that external validation. And that control is just a cage. It's not actually protecting you in any way. That's the illusion of unresolved fears and traumas. So by letting go of expectations, of judgments, of attachments, of beliefs, of misaligned relationships and careers and experiences, you make room for clarity, because you finally get to see things as they are, not through the lens of your fears and unresolved wounds that have distorted your reality. You make room for freedom because you stop outsourcing your peace to external validation, to external conditions, to other people. You get to reclaim your sovereignty. You make room for higher and more holistic alignment. You create space for what's meant for you instead of holding on, gripping to what was never truly yours in the first place, meaning a person, an experience that was ultimately out of alignment with your highest self. You make room for harmony, meaning your inner world and your outer world come into natural balance because you've stopped resisting that natural flow of what is meant for you to meet you and align with you. So letting go isn't just psychological, it's a spiritual practice, because everything that you cling to out of fear becomes an anchor to that lower, denser reality where you are disconnected from what you truly want and deserve. But everything that you do release with holistic intention, with integration, with trust, then becomes a portal to your highest timeline. And that's how you elevate your human self. That's how you elevate your spiritual self. That's how you transcend the needless suffering that's so normalized. And you step into your divine embodiment with greater ease because you have more inner and outer space and with more mind, body, soul clarity. And when you surrender your control, you also activate something much greater. You make space, you invite, you give permission for the intelligence of the universe, the wisdom of your highest self, and your connection and embodiment of unconditional love to be seen, to be felt, to be experienced. Unconditional love requires surrender, because if love is conditional, it's not healthy love. It's attachment, it's control, it's love that's rooted in fear, it's love that's rooted in control, it's love that's rooted in attachment, it's love that's rooted in codependency. True love, whether for yourself, whether for another person, whether for life itself, requires you to be open and expanded and to surrender, because it's an unconditional love. That means it's boundless. It doesn't need to be attached to anything. It's unconditional. And your understanding, your embodiment, your connection with unconditional love is going to deepen, is going to reach into the corners of your mind, body, and soul that you have never been to until you travel and know that unconditional love. But that happens when you stop trying to force outcomes, when you stop grasping at certainty, meaning you fear the unknown, and so you stay within your comfort zone. It happens when you stop trying to manipulate your reality by force and coercion and pretense, because you're still trying to fit into old identities that were built upon fear and scarcity and disconnection from your true self. So when you let go, you are moving on because you're literally ascending, because your energy is no longer anchored to denser energies. You literally shift into a higher timeline and reality that is in closer alignment with your highest self and your highest path. You literally elevate into more of the person that you were always meant to be, because you're free from the illusions and the attachments that once kept you feeling small, dependent, powerless, unworthy, unlovable, not enough. So a big question to ask yourself is, are you holding on to something to avoid pain, or are you holding on to something to avoid the unknown? Because that's a big motivation for a lot of people for not being able to let go. Because the longer you grip onto what does not serve you because of those fears, the longer that you postpone the meeting of yourself, your highest self, who is genuinely free and empowered. You did not incarnate to hold on
pain and hope.
and remain stuck and unchanged. You're here to evolve. You're here to expand your consciousness. And so the moment that you realize that your evolution requires you to be completely open and surrendered, meaning available to what is most aligned for you, by accepting what is not, letting go is no longer going to feel like a loss. It's going to feel like a liberation, because it is. So let's talk about why people struggle to let go, why people hold on, because these are all valid and very common reasons. So the first one is people often get attached to versions of themselves that they're just simply familiar with, even though that version of themselves is not empowered, feels small, feels unworthy, unlovable. They're just attached to that version of themselves because it's familiar. And so sometimes it's not the person or the situation that you're holding on to, but the identity that you had in that dynamic. Meaning you're not attached to a person or a situation, you're just attached to the version of you that was with that person or in that situation. For example, you hesitate to leave a long-term relationship, not because of the love or lack of love for your partner, but because you fear losing the identity of being the partner. Another reason is that people are afraid of who they're going to be without the thing or the person, meaning you're more attached to your identity than to the thing itself. So an example of that is like you clinging to, you are unwilling to move on from an unfulfilling career because you actually don't know who you are without that job title. Another reason is people fear the unknown. This is a big one. The nervous system equates familiarity with safety. And so that means even when a situation or a person or relationship or thing is toxic, letting go means stepping into uncertainty. And so if your nervous system is dysregulated and you're not in command of your nervous system, meaning you don't know how to self-regulate, you're not familiar with how your nervous system gets activated, what your trauma responses are, and then you are met with uncertainty, your nervous system will mistake that uncertainty for a lack of safety. And then deep survival instincts will kick in. For example, someone will quit a job that they hate, but then they feel instantly regretful because they don't know what's next. And then that fear of I don't know what's next then just makes them go back to the job that they hated in the first place. Another reason people struggle to move on is because of subconscious beliefs of scarcity and low self-worth. So people hold on because they don't believe that they're going to experience anything better, essentially. And so letting go requires a belief that something more aligned for you exists. And so if you have low self-worth, then you doubt that something better exists for you because you don't think that you deserve better. Example is staying in a relationship that has no real potential, but you're just convinced that you're not going to find another love like that. Another reason that people struggle to let go is because of trauma-based attachments. And this is like inner child wounding, nervous system regulation, which I touched on a little bit earlier. But if you struggle to let go, then your nervous system probably still associates the past with safety just because it's familiar, right? Like I said before, the nervous system associates familiarity with safety. So until you begin to heal your inner child, your traumas, and begin to regulate your nervous system, release all of that trauma from your body, reparent your inner child, resolve those fears, and letting go is going to feel like a threat, not a liberation. So people with a lot of unresolved traumas and wounds, it can feel like abandonment. Letting go can feel like abandonment. And so an example would be someone who stays in a one-sided relationship, believing like, if I just try harder, they're going to love me more. That's inner child wounding. That's a fear of abandonment. Another reason is people are scared of losing something, the illusion of loss. That's just an illusion of separation. You're not losing anything when you let go. You're already whole as you are. You are everything. And so when you let something go that's not in alignment with your health, with your happiness, with your highest self, you're actually gaining a freer, more open connection with what is aligned with your health, your happiness, and highest self. So an example of this would be someone who resists giving up habits of overworking because they fear they're going to lose that identity of being a successful person. Another reason is people feel guilty. Grief is one of the most underrated healing experiences, transformational experiences. Grief is simply just love. It's just love. It's an expression of love. And so when you hold on to suffering because you feel guilty about letting go, that's just you resisting grieving. That's you believing that you can't both experience the pain or the emotions and also love at the same time. So an example would be someone who resists grieving because they fear getting to the end of that grief journey and feeling happy and reconciled will mean that they forget the person that they're grieving or the relationship that they're grieving. Also, trauma bonds, emotional addictions are another reason that people have difficulty letting go. The body can like literally become addicted to certain emotional states, like stress, anxiety, longing. So when you become conscious and you start to let go productively, intentionally, you have to then understand that you are rewiring your nervous system. Trauma bonds are real and they form when pain gets wired with love. And the nervous system then confuses chaos with connection. So true healing, though, comes from rewiring what is safe to you and learning that you are ultimately connected with yourself. That's the most important connection. So an example would be someone who feels more alive, right, when they're in a toxic or volatile or unhealthy relationship than being in a relationship that's stable. Someone who stays attached to a partner who makes them feel bad about themselves, who maintains that unpredictable cycle of chaser, runner, hurt, repair, because they've never experienced love calmly, securely, or safely. Another reason is ancestral and cultural conditioning. Some attachments are not even ours. We inherit them through our family, through our lineage, through society. That's intergenerational trauma. That's societal conditioning. And so you're holding on to something that was never yours to hold on to in the first place. So an example would be like a woman unconsciously repeats her mother's pattern of choosing unavailable men. And that's a pattern that her mom did, her grandmother did, et cetera, et cetera. Another reason is people often fear regret. Like, what if I make a mistake? And that's why they hold on. The mind really does like to cling to what's known. And so if you start to entertain all the what ifs, that's another way to delay grief. And it's another way to create that illusion of certainty and control. But regret is just resistance to accepting what is. So an example would be someone who second guesses leaving a friendship that doesn't fulfill them, wondering like, what if I don't make another friend in my community? And another reason is people often want to be right. People hold on because it's a subconscious attempt to maintain a sense of power, of righteousness. But, true power doesn't come from being right. That's your personal sovereignty and certainly is not rooted in resentment. And so an example would be like someone refuses to release anger toward an ex or release judgments about an ex, thinking that forgiving them or releasing that anger is letting that person off the hook from being, a bad boyfriend or girlfriend or partner or whatever. And another reason is people fear losing the meaning of the relationship of the situation, like moving on, like will invalidate something about what they experienced. But you can't honor the past while you're trapped in it. So an example would be like a person resists moving on from a breakup because moving on would then invalidate the love that they shared. This is a big unconscious motivator for a lot of people. And another reason are soul contracts and energetic imprints. Some connections linger. They leave energetic imprints in your auric field, and they linger due to subconscious beliefs that you have a soul contract with that person that you're bound to, that needs to be fulfilled. So you stay in a relationship or a situation for longer than is healthy for you. An example would be like you feel an inexplicable pull to your ex, even though the relationship isn't healthy. And no matter how much time passes, you still feel tethered to them. And so another big reason is that people believe that pain is like evidence of love. Again, this like ties into this whole normalized narrative of suffering, that somehow suffering is a measurement for how much you loved. That's just a trauma narrative, and you can still love deeply what you release. So an example would be someone who resists healing after a breakup, unconsciously thinking, if I stop hurting, if I stop suffering, then did I ever really truly love them? It's just a fear that if the pain goes away, that it invalidates what caused the pain in the first
What's
place.
up, mind
So
freak?
those are all common reasons that people have difficulty letting go and moving on. And I used to relate to so many of those reasons. But when you become conscious in your healing and you become intentional with aligning with your highest health, happiness, and highest self, and making choices on a daily basis that actually serve you and are aligned with unconditional self-love, letting go becomes easier because you start to see it for what it is, which is liberation and realignment. So now I'm going to give you some steps to help you let go intentionally, productively, and healthfully.
So far, everything she says makes me quite sad because she had to let go of her husband. So she can talk like this. I feel really strong from her. And all the tips she gives is pretty valuable. Like a lot of stuff that I just had to hear today to feel a little better, and it helps a lot for sure. And she's right about so many things. I need to fulfill my destiny. No, thank you.
The first tip is we have to grieve. You have to feel your feelings. You have to honor your emotions. You have to move through the whole grief journey, and the whole grief journey is full of different emotions, and that's why it's such a transformative healing practice. And it's so liberating when you release all of those emotions and you grieve what needs to be grieved, because in grieving you just validate what you didn't get, what you needed, what you wanted, what is moving on, what the transition is, what the change is. It's such a self-empowering and self-loving practice, grieving. And forgiveness is such a huge part of letting go. This means forgiving yourself first and foremost. Forgiveness is primarily an act of self-love. It's you giving yourself peace and permission
I talked
to
about this in the video
be
today. I can never
whole
forgive myself.
as
I
you
hate
are,
myself for
with
this.
or without the person or thing or whatever. So forgiveness is such a powerful practice for letting go. And yes, then once you forgive yourself, forgiving whoever else is involved, forgiving the situation, even if it wasn't a tremendously painful situation. Perhaps it was a statement, perhaps it was a certain conflict. All of that you hold on to is a part of your energetic field, becomes a part of your energetic resonance, which then determines the reality that you're living in. And so you really do liberate your energy when you forgive. It's such a healing practice. And I think a lot of people have misconceptions about forgiving. Like forgiving means that if someone did wrong you, then it means that what they did doesn't matter. And that's not true at all. Forgiving doesn't invalidate anything. It doesn't dismiss, it doesn't erase. It's just you claiming your peace and your sovereignty and your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. It's you accepting like your own humanity by accepting another person's humanity, and accepting that every single aspect of a human being exists in you and exists in another human being. That's part of being human. That's called shadow work. And when you embrace those aspects of yourself that you have difficulty forgiving in another person, that's the power move. That's how you forgive, is by learning radical self-acceptance and self-love, because that's true compassion. And when you have that compassion for yourself, then it's so much easier to have that compassion for another person. And another tip for letting go healthfully, productively, and intentionally is you have to release the experience from your body. People don't do this enough, but this is essentially somatic exercising, emotional release. Like emotions are a part of your physical body. That's why they're called feelings. You feel them. So you have to release the experience from your body. It's not just a mental letting go. Like you decide, okay, peace, we out. I'm not going to think about you again, person, thing, job, whatever. You have to let it go from your body. And this also means regulating your nervous system. That means you reestablishing safety where you are now
I
in
don't
this
understand
new
how to do that
connection
yet.
where you are without that thing, person, belief, identity, whatever. So that's all you taking command of your physical well-being. That's huge for the process of letting go, because you're not just a mind, you have a body that's connected to it, and it all works in tandem. So the more that you release that experience, all the emotions that are connected from your body through somatic exercises, through movement, through emotional release, and then you regulate your own nervous system in the present moment, the easier it's going to be to move on. And also, you have to validate what needs to be validated for you. You have to honor your experience. People don't know how to self-validate, people are so self-invalidating. People are so self-abandoning, so self-rejecting, so self-judging, so self-shaming. And of course you're going to struggle to feel happy and confident and clear and certain in your decisions and choosing choices that do serve your highest health and happiness when you are in conflict with yourself. Self-validation is like fundamental to your ability to exist in self-empowerment and self-love and harmony with yourself, because everything that you experience is valid. All of your experiences are valid, and you're responsible for validating them. And when you learn to self-validate and say, okay, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling weak, I'm feeling vulnerable, and you honor those experiences, or that was challenging for me, I didn't know how to show up for myself in that moment, and so my wounding was present, and you validate that. You validate your wounding. I see you. It's okay that you showed up. I mean, self-validation is such a simple self-healing tool. People overlook it all the time as if it's like, okay. But yeah, try it and see what happens, because it's very self-loving. It's very self-empowering, because often people want other people to validate them for them. It's like, oh, you should validate that for me. And that's codependency, friend. Self-validation is so fundamental to self-empowerment and your ability to let go, which is you liberating yourself. And also cutting energetic cords is a big thing. Everything's energy. And so every experience, person, thing, belief, identity has an energy to it. And so when you let go, you have to make sure that you're clearing your energy. You're removing those energetic connections and imprints, because that's just all stored energy and frequency in your energetic field. And so that's a huge pro tip. And also decluttering your physical space to reflect your inner shift, to reflect more like literal inner space and freedom.
Yeah, just
that is also a wonderful way to help you transition and let go, because it's a physical reflection of your inner reality, right? When you declutter, when you make space in your physical environment, because you've made space in your inner environment, there's going to be inner and outer harmony, which of course is going to help you move on. And also you have to acknowledge and rewrite the subconscious narratives that you have surrounding attachment. So that means asking yourself, what subconscious beliefs, what perceptions do I have that are keeping me holding on? Like, is it because I feel like I'm not going to be loved again? Is it because I'm scared of being truly loved, because that means I'm going to be really seen? Is it I'm scared, I don't want to admit that I made a mistake, or that was my only chance at happiness because that was the only person who's ever loved me? You have to acknowledge the subconscious narratives that are feeding your behaviors and choices and your emotional patterns that are keeping you attached to the thing that is not serving you. And then you have to go to the root of those narratives, identify who those narratives, beliefs, and perceptions belong to. How is that programming formed? And then you have to validate, honor, heal, release all that. And letting go and moving on requires certainty. I think this is not something that people understand immediately, but you have to have certainty that what you're moving on from is not only for your highest good, but that what you're moving toward is more aligned for you. That's trust. That's trust in your highest self. That's trust in the universe. Because so many people doubt that what is beyond what they know isn't safe, isn't better for them. They don't actually believe that there's anything more for them, because of low self-worth, because of limiting beliefs, because of unresolved trauma, because of unresolved fears. So the more certain you become, meaning you develop self-trust, you develop trust in the universe, the easier it is for you to understand that whatever you're letting go of is only just making space for something that's more aligned. And this is why healing your inner child is so important, because it's them, it's their attachment that's keeping you from really truly releasing in a way that's healthy and empowered. It's their wounds, it's their beliefs, it's their perceptions that they're not going to be loved, that they're not worthy of anything more, they're not capable of anything more. So letting go also requires turning within and seeing the parts of yourself that have those narratives that enforce the grasping, the holding on to, the inability to release control and truly surrender. So you have to remind them that you are there. That's huge, because they're afraid of losing something. They're afraid of abandonment. They're afraid of being alone. So when you turn within and you see your inner child and you remind them that you're there, that you'll always be there for them, they're always loved by you, that's not only going to help you reconnect with yourself, but it's going to make that progression, that development of transitioning into a more aligned version of yourself in your life so much more self-loving and self-empowering. Because self-love and that self-connection are so key. You're holding on, you're attached because you believe that that thing, that person makes you whole. They validate you. They validate your lovability. They validate your wholeness. You fill in the blank. But if you're connected to yourself, if you love yourself, you don't need anything else to feel secure or validated or lovable or whole. So self-love, unconditional self-love, that's a huge, huge asset to your ability to let go.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying
And
to
at
learn.
some point, you have
Oh
to
God.
officially claim your sovereignty over your mind, over your body, over your heart, over your soul, with
I'm so
yourself and
far
to the
away.
universe, because that holding on is you giving power to the thing that you're holding on to, because you're scared of what's going to happen when you let go of who you are, of that space not getting filled.
This is all
I've covered
true.
so many reasons of why people struggle to let go. But when you do take a moment to reclaim your sovereignty, to say, you know what, this is my heart, this is my body, this is my mind, this is my soul, and I'm fully accountable for myself, and I'm fully responsible to the health of my mind, my body, my heart, and my soul, because I am a sovereign being, and my mind and my body, my heart, and my soul are mine, and ultimately no one else's. That's a really big power move, because you're coming home to yourself. And it's a reminder that ultimately it's your relationship with yourself that's the most important. And how you show up in that relationship, whether it's in an empowered or disempowered way, is really going to influence your ability to let go in a healthy and productive and intentional way. And also, I recommend sacred rituals, like release rituals, to honor endings, to help with the grieving and the release. That means writing letters, altars, creating altars, water ceremonies. There's so many sacred ritual ceremonies that help with the process of releasing energy. Ultimately, when you engage in any of those practices with the intention and knowing that moving on is actually you moving towards something more aligned, which is toward your highest self, the energy of you letting go becomes really sacred. It becomes really beautiful and so healing. And that's why it is a liberation. So I want to really quickly talk about the quantum perspective of this, because I think this is a helpful perspective. If you continue to hold on, what happens is you're actually rooting yourself, you're anchoring yourself into a timeline that is no longer in resonance with your growth and your evolution. Again, loss is just an illusion of separation. You never lose anything. When you let go, there is nothing that's lost. You are already whole. You are an infinite and eternal being. You're not separate from anything, because the fundamental truth of reality is oneness, where everything is connected, everything is one. So when you're letting go, you are actually shifting into a freer and higher version of yourself, meaning a higher reality, a higher timeline. Because when we release something, we're actually not losing it, we're actually transmuting it into a new form. Because again, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it just transforms. And so energetic connections don't just vanish, they evolve. And you have the power to control how that connection evolves, whether you remain tethered to it, whether it continues to pull your energy down, reinforce those wounded, limiting, self-abandoning perceptions and beliefs, or you can transform that energetic connection into something that reinforces your sovereignty and your embodiment of your highest self. And letting go also allows you to be available for the divine intelligence and orchestration that is happening for you. There is a divine intelligent orchestration that, if you allow yourself to flow with it, will always guide you, will always move you, nudge you toward knowing and embodying your highest self and your highest timeline. That divine intelligent orchestration is your highest self. It's your guides, it's your angels, it's your ancestors, and it's source. It's the universe all working together to help you align and stay on your highest path.
That's what people
You
call
have
God.
to
And you know
know
what? I
that you are
actually have
not
this
alone
feeling,
in
and
life. You're not alone in the
the stupid
universe. We're
thing is, it
always being supported. We're
says it's
always
with
being
her.
guided. We were always loved. I've
So yeah.
become so distinctly aware of that divine, intelligent orchestration, because my life in the past few months has become unrecognizable from what it was 6 months ago. And it's so intensely magical and so deeply illogical what's happening if you look at it through a 3D lens. But if you zoom out, I'm experiencing time in a completely nonlinear way. I'm no longer influenced by cause and effect. Like, the amount of synchronicities and experiences that I'm living they're just beyond, there's no words to describe them. And it's even been challenging for me, because I'm like, oh, I want to share this, but then I don't even know how, because there's so many. It literally happens every single day. I have pages and pages, because I haven't, it's called my evidence of magic journal. And I write all the magical shit that happens to me in this journal. And it's literally pages and pages and pages. It's an overwhelming amount of magic and support. And it's because I have let go of so much in the past few months. I have let go of old identities. I have let go of old fears. I have let go of old wounds. I have let go of people. I have let go of emotions. I have let go. And in doing that, I have created so much space for my highest self, for the universe, for my guides, for all that divine orchestration to be seen, to make themselves known. And it's ongoing. You know, sometimes I'm like, is it ever gonna? Nope. It's just on and on and on. And what I'm experiencing is self-referential timeline corrections where my past is literally changed so that my present is anchored in my highest timeline. Where like physical things that are showing me how my past has changed, synchronized with very meaningful dates. I mean, the orchestration of it is beyond. You know, I think I probably
I
will write a
understand what
book
she
about it because
says.
it's so fantastical and extraordinary and out of this
Mm-hmm.
world. But what I've come to deeply understand is that nothing is random. Nothing in life is random. I've held the belief that nothing is a coincidence for many years, many, 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 many years. But nothing is random is different because, yes, we all have free will. Yes, we are all in total control of our reality. But there is also a divine intelligence. There's a divine orchestration moving things around, making shit happen in the background. And the more that you make space for that because you are living in flow, meaning you are not resisting your connection, your highest path, because you're holding on to old identities, you're holding on to experiences and people and beliefs and perceptions that do not serve you, you are available for the magic. You're fully present in the flow. And you're going to start to see and experience and trust that magic and flow more deeply, because you're going to start to understand that is your own divinity and limitlessness being reflected back to you, and that magic and all of the illogical, like, I can't even write that, no one could write that type of experiences. Like, you get to experience your own existence as truly limitless because you are free to be limitless. You are a complete, divine, sovereign, multidimensional being that is bound to nothing, bound to no one. Now, that doesn't mean that nothing matters, that no one matters. It just means that the only thing that's keeping you stuck, keeping you feeling like you can't be happy or whole without a person, without that belief, without that thing, without that job, without that identity, is you. We can have healthy attachments, meaning we can have healthy relationships. But when we hand over our sovereignty to that relationship, whether that's a relationship with a person, a job, a place, whatever, we hand over our innate freedom and thus our power, our truth, our divinity. Letting go is not about forcing yourself to move on. It's about returning home to yourself. It's about freeing yourself. It's about recognizing that you were never incomplete to begin with. It's about you trusting that when you release something that no longer serves you, you're making space for something far greater than your human mind can currently comprehend. And that is when the magic happens, is when you truly surrender. So here is your action step for the week. This is a practice that's going to help you let go intentionally in a very self-empowering manner. And it's a very simple one, but it's a very powerful and effective one. I want you to write a liberation letter. I love this practice. I love a good letter. So it just means, you know, grabbing a piece of paper. This is not an electronic letter. So grab a piece of paper or a notebook and write a letter of release to a person, to a situation, to a belief, to an identity, to whatever it is that you're holding on to, a habit, a job. But here's the key. Do not write that letter of release as your wounded self who's attached. I want you to write that letter as your highest self, the version of you that's already free. So that means that in this letter of release, this liberation letter, you're going to acknowledge what you learned from the person or thing or experience. Thank it, acknowledge and appreciate what you learned, what it taught you, how they or it helped you to experience yourself in a more aligned way, how they've helped you evolve. And then reclaim your power in that letter, meaning proclaim that you do not need them, that situation or whatever, to feel whole or worthy or loved. Claim that you are complete and whole and worthy exactly as you are on your own. In the letter, proclaim that you love yourself, that you are loved, that you were always connected to love, and that you are never alone, and that you will always be connected to them. But now your connection is going to change so that you're no longer attached because you've reclaimed your sovereignty. And then I want you to end the letter with love. And that's when you release the connection to the universe to be transmuted into a higher purpose and set yourself free. So it's not just like a It's not just an emotional release letter, it's a very intentional liberation letter. So when you're done, this is also key, read the letter out loud, okay? Because when you speak, you send a vibrational command through the resonance of your voice, through the resonance of your words to not only your subconscious, but to the universe. And that verbal proclamation also proclaims that you're no longer available for that old timeline, for that old connection that no longer serves you. And then lastly, burn the letter safely, right? In a safe manner. And that's a powerful ritual of release and a signal to the universe that you're no longer bound to what was binding you. So it's not just a letter writing exercise, it's also a quantum shift because you're energetically relating to the person, to the experience, to the thing in an appreciative way, in an empowering way, in a loving way, and also in a holistic way. And when you do that, that means your resonance comes into harmony and you're automatically going to shift into a higher timeline and reality from doing that. So I hope that this episode has helped you not only understand the value of letting go in a healthy, productive, and intentional way, but that letting go was really a letting in. You're making space for what's aligned with you, for more magic, for more joy, for more clarity, for more peace, for more alignment, for more harmony, for more. And you deserve that because you are more. Thank you so much for joining me today in The Simple Source. I hope this episode has inspired you, reminded you of your
This was really good. How to let go, release unhealthy attachments, free yourself, and reclaim your power. By Linda Villines. I forgot how she said her name.
healing power and reawakened you to who your true and highest self
Maybe she
is.
says.
If the show has empowered and enlightened your self-love, growth, and healing journey, please share this episode, leave a positive review on Apple or Spotify, and subscribe to be reminded of new episodes. I am so grateful for your presence, and all of your comments and your support are seen and read and deeply appreciated. They really do help this show so much. Also, sign up for my newsletter, The Weekly Source, to get more healing tips, motivation stories, and to get to know me better. And if you haven't read my book, Unconditional, You Are Perfect As You Are, I invite you to get your copy today and start reading. And lastly, I would love to see you inside my Source membership, the only holistic and comprehensive step-by-step self-healing program that is proven to work. It's time to stop struggling to heal.
Cool, she seems happy. Good for her, man. That is some tragedy she went through for sure. I'm very exhausted. And it's late. I think that's it for tonight.